Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Really excited to have you here, and even more excited to have my good friend Neil Timmins with us today. He's a single family investor that's accomplished a ton of stuff, but he's really transitioned into commercial deals. And we're going to talk about that transition from single family investing into commercial. Welcome to Real Estate Investing Secrets. We're all looking for freedom and the opportunity to live better, more fulfilling lives. But most of us were trained our entire lives to work for someone else and chase their dreams. How can we use real estate investing as a vehicle to achieve financial freedom? My life is dedicated to answering your real estate investing questions and helping you build an investing business that allows you to change your life and the world around you, and to enable you to turn your dreams of financial freedom into a reality. My name is Mike Hambright from Flipnerd.com, and your questions get answered here on the Real Estate Investing Secrets Show. Hey, Neil, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike. It's good to be here. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. Good to see you. The last time I saw you I was on your podcast. That was maybe, what's that been? A couple months maybe, but
yeah.
Time's flying right now. So it seems like it was just yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. So Neil, I'm excited to talk to you today about this. I'm doing a lot more multifamily investing, and you're doing all sorts of different commercial property investing. And, I've always said from the beginning, early on, I think I identified as a real estate investor. And over time, I just said, a lot of us are just in the opportunity business. Ultimately, like, we're looking for ways to use our knowledge to make money and monetize deals and change our family's trajectory and family tree and change the community around us. Right. So I'm excited to talk about that today. If folks don't know who you are, maybe you could take a minute, just tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, Neil Timmins from Iowa, right in the middle of the country. So
not far from where I grew up, by the way.
No, you and I grew up very close to one another. Yeah. Yep. No. So I'm right in the middle, 18 years in the business. I cut my teeth, if you will, in as a real estate agent, became the top Remax guy when I was 29 years old in the state, and then morphed about 5 years ago now. It was 5 years ago, just a little over 5.5 years ago, I bought my first property that I ever kept. We fixed a little, flipped a little before that, but 5.5 years ago, bought my first rental, and then that was it. Fell in love with the investment side of the business and completely morphed my business into investing, and was able to buy my time back by no longer being an agent who shows homes or lists properties here about a year and a half ago. And so it's really lit the investment business really on fire for us.
Yeah. You know what I think happens is, in your business, like, you're working on, for most people, I don't know if you'll resonate with this. I think you will. You're working on kind of active money, right? As an agent, it's transactional, every deal you do.
All active.
Then you get into the real estate investing space, and it's the bigger numbers, but it's still transactional, but you love it. So you're like, how could I ever not do this?
Right.
As time goes by, you're like, I thought of a few ways why I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And maybe you've got some rentals, and you start to realize, like, I get recurring payments from this. Initially, they feel small, but you start to think about, how do I ratchet that up so I can get more kind of, I don't want to call it passive, because a lot of this stuff isn't really as passive as anybody would lead you to believe, but it's recurring for sure.
Right.
And so I think that's what happens. It's just like, it's kind of the evolution of a real estate investor, is to realize
you're totally right at that. And then derive the net benefits outside of dollars and cents that you can get from how you earn your money. Right. Yeah. So it's a whole lot easier on a recurring basis to manage that monster, if you will, to a degree, versus, great, now I got to go out and start it. You got to go earn it from zero every month.
Right.
It's a lot different.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about kind of why you're transitioning. I mean, I think we just stole our own thunder there a little bit in talking about some of it, but what are some other reasons why you're making that transition?
I got to a point in my, being a realtor, was going, oh, great. I earned a fair bit of money, and I was going, this needs to get placed someplace. Right. And so that led me to single families to go, great, let's build a rental portfolio. Now I found myself going, oh, okay, this isn't quite as passive as one would think it is. Yeah. And you got a little more dollars, and it's going, great. Now, how do I leverage up my skill set at the same time as leveraging up dollars and cents and morphing into commercial. So I started buying commercial about 3.5 years ago, and have bought a number of assets over the last 3 years. And the big benefits for me is, the ability to focus. It's like buying, in many cases, 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 houses, single family houses at one time. So the ability, you get more juice from the squeeze, because while there's a lot of effort to buy one deal, it's disproportionate to the benefits that you actually get.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I can concentrate the risk. I can focus on the thing, the one thing, getting it all the way through. Depreciation is incredible, right? When you can buy a single asset. And then property management, has become substantially easier to manage commercial assets in comparison to single family homes. So
Yeah.
most of our single family homes are outsourced to a third party property manager, which we've gone through. Now we're on our third iteration of a property manager in the last 18 months. It can be a challenging business.
Sure.
There's not a property manager is a thankless business, right?
No doubt.
It is a very hard way for one to earn a buck.
No doubt.
And on the commercial side, it's, you're dealing with professionals, often people who've gone to school, been educated for this. It is a different breed of folks. And it just has become way easier, way more hands off. It's just an easier way to make dollars and cents. And at the end of the day, the goal is to simplify this, not make it more complicated.
Yeah. 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 And it's more B2B, right? More B2B than B2C. Sure. Less probably emotion tied to it. It's just more of people making business decisions ultimately, right?
People making business decisions, yes. But then at the same time, to be able to get, for how we buy, and our goal is to buy, some level of distress. I say distress, some level of where we can add value and force appreciation through making an either physical improvement, through making a management change, through enforcing some leases that hadn't been previously enforced, doing something to really drive the dollars and cents, the NOI up, increase our revenue, and as a result, dramatically increase the value of the property.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I love. Let's talk about like the ability to create value with commercial as compared to single family. With single family, you're always capped by what the retail comps are for the most part, right? I mean, Correct. You could owner finance and maybe sell it for more, but then you're the bank as well, which is not a bad thing. But right. With commercial, you essentially have, damn near unlimited potential to increase the value if you can find a way to truly increase value for your customers, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right, because there's the two primary ways in which one values a property as an appraiser is what you do it three ways: a cost approach, which almost nobody uses unless you're in new construction, right? Or you're using the income approach, which is the primary method of valuation in commercial. So meaning you've got X number, your income is X and you've got a cap rate of Y. You just do some math and that's the value of the property. Or a sales comparison approach in single family home. Your home's worth about what the neighbor's home just sold for.
Yeah. Could you give a couple of examples of like some commercial properties that you bought, and you bought it with the intention of, you saw, hey, I can do this and this and this and create some value, and maybe just kind of share like a mini case study here of an example of that.
Yeah, we've actually, I'll give you one that we're going through right now that we bought 2.5 years ago, and we're just under contract to resell it at this point in time. So we bought it 2.5 years ago. It was December. I wanted to get the deal done, of course, in the tax year, and so did the seller. And so we came to an agreement like the 5th of December to get it done, which there was no way I was getting a loan closed in 25 days. Right. It was about, I'm rounding here, $820,000 to a building, sits on two parcels right next to each other. It's a retail strip, neighborhood strip. So, you got a Subway, you got a Dairy Queen, you got a vet clinic, and a few other things littered in there. And it had produced, at that time, it was roughly about a 9 cap. The building's about 40 some odd years old, needs ultimately to realize its highest and potential value over a period of time. Both buildings are going to have to be scraped and they're going to build new. So we're in an area that is a really solid B-class area, and there's a whole bunch of development taking place on the street. So everything's getting a facelift or literally demised and then put back up. So I went in there and took it down. I ended up buying it from the seller on contract so we could get the deal done in the calendar year. Yep. I put 10% down and up refinancing it 60 days later to get it on a permanent loan. And so that got buttoned up just fine. I put new management in place. And then as soon as we went through and did a lease audit. So that just means, for everybody, read the leases and then decide what's being done today versus what the lease actually says. And you'd be shocked to find that a whole bunch of leases are not being enforced either. And oftentimes it's not the dollars and cents on the lease rate that's not being enforced. It's the insurance policies. Well, that means the landlord now has to have an insurance policy versus pushing that down to the tenant. It's your share of common area expenses where it should have been X and it's really Y. So that's simply all I did, Mike, is go in there, knew this going in before we closed, what's going to have to be done. Redid a couple of things with the tenants there just to enforce the leases that were in place and then properly manage it. And by that, I mean, keep an eye on the expenses. Do not let the management company get out of line with what needs to be done to the property. And I went in there and set the expectation from the get-go to go, listen, this thing is a property that its best use at the end of its life, at the end of its day, is going to be scraped. So anything that needs to be done, find a Band-Aid for, or get two rolls of duct tape. Just put the thing back together. Don't buy new, when used is good enough.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was able to do. Now what's transpired over the last 2 years, as you know, is cap rates have compressed, and there's a whole bunch of, right now there's tons of cash in the environment to try to find anything available. So we bought it for 8, just listed it right darn near 1.6. And I can't tell you exactly what it is since we're under contract, but very, very close to the asking price is where we're sitting today.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So we talked about, one question I want you to answer is, I think a lot of people say, well, why would, because they associate commercial properties more with investors, like, it's not somebody that's living there ever, generally the case. It's always an investor of some sort, right? So people say, well, why would somebody sell it if it's a good deal? Now, we know why people sell us houses at a discount, right? They're distressed, like something's going on, they can't afford it, or they've got health issues or whatever. On the seller side, the same thing could happen. They have health issues. They could be financially distressed, right? But maybe share some other reasons in your experience why people are selling you commercial properties, so people can kind of get some comparison to single family houses.
Yeah, no, great question. On that particular one, they had a property they'd identified and they wanted to complete a 1031 exchange. This is the people I bought it from are some of the largest commercial property owners in the city from a family standpoint.
Okay.
So they absolutely know what they're doing. They know how to execute. They've been around a long time doing this.
Yeah.
But let me ask you a question. I mean, would you sell a property that you own at a discount if you believed you were going to make way more money on a property you intended to buy?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so, and I think that's where this particular situation came in, is that you find some motivation. Somebody wants to, they're going, I don't want this anymore. Then the grass is greener on the other side.
Yep.
Another property, about a 2-pack of properties here, just a few months back. The seller, the gentleman there, was at a spot where he was an orthodontist, sold his practice a handful of years ago and retained the real estate. So now it's coming up to just selling the real estate. He's somewhere in his 70s and just at a point where it was time for him to make a change.
Yep. Time to get out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think a lot of people don't realize, is because we've bought some commercial properties and people are like, why would they, it seems like they could have gotten more. Well, it's like, yeah, if they had made the updates they needed to, like, they probably saw that, but sometimes people look at it and they're like, you know what, I'm selling it for 4X what I bought it for like 8 years ago or 10 years ago. So,
correct.
Is there more opportunity? Sure. But that'll never end if I play that game. Right. So I'm just willing to take what I have now. It's like trading in a car, right? Like, I'm not getting top dollar, but man, this was easy, right?
No, you're absolutely right. That, and at some point, if they, especially with dealing with brokers, and that's one of the things that is dramatically different in the commercial side versus the single family side. In the single family side, I can think of 2 properties I ever bought on an MLS. I mean, that means hundreds have been bought off MLS, seller direct, right?
Yeah.
But on the commercial side, while there's no exact repository for the numbers, just because of the way commercial works, it's generally agreed that at least 50% of the transactions take place off market with a broker. So both off market and with a broker. So it's imperative for us then to build relationships with brokers, to find those off market deals, to be able to move the needle and pick up transactions. And that's what we've been able to do is dial that process in.
Yep. Yep. So I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of pros and cons. I think we've really just talked a lot about pros, and what are some are there any cons that you see? I mean, obviously you're moving in that direction, so you probably think there's more pros than cons, but there might be some cons about the commercial side relative to the single family side.
Well, your biggest con, like anything, is did you buy correct, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why, I always say, we're looking for when I acquire is value add property, things that we can move the needle on, or you want to call it dented and scratched commercial
Right.
stuff. So something that has a flavor that's similar to that of single family.
Sure.
But, a biggest con, if you will, it's a material difference is your lending.
Mm.
In several instances, you can go get a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. If you're going to put it on your books, you can get up to 10 loans and put them on a 30-year fixed rate finance, but
Yep.
then you've got to do something after that.
Right.
Well, commercially, you don't get that choice. You're going to end up in a commercial bank, borrowing typically on a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year fixed rate. Every bank's a bit different. There's plenty of people who, everybody will do a 5-year, but there's some nuances. Some banks just don't have appetites for 10-year loans. Some banks don't have appetites for whatever commercial product you're going to buy.
Yeah.
So you've got to build multiple relationships with folks and understand who's got an appetite for what. And then your amortization schedule. Some people want to put you on a 20 or 25 or a 30. So there's more moving pieces on the lending side. And that's a big factor that could be, I don't know if it's a negative, but it's certainly a material difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think about maybe liquidity? Like single family is probably a little bit easier to move than a commercial if you wanted to sell it, right?
Sure. Yeah, it absolutely is. And then liquidity is different. And then you're reporting back to the bank. So, when you buy a single family home, most of the time there's not a great deal of reporting, if any, back to a bank. On the commercial side, it's every year, tax returns, personal financial statement. They want to understand exactly what's taking place. They want to be able to project forward, and their goal is to not lose, right? Just like it should be our goal.
Yeah, they're trying to protect their asset.
They're protecting their asset. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's talk about kind of finding deals, sourcing deals, things like that. So obviously the whole game, not the whole game, but a significant part of the game on the single family side is lead generation,
Correct.
Finding deals, whether it's pay-per-click, direct mail, texting, cold calling, all those things. How does that compare on the single family? I'm sorry, on the commercial side?
Yeah, while there are factors of that are still in play, the bulk of the transactions, even good deals, you're like, on the single family side, you're going, the good deals don't appear on the MLS. Brokers don't get involved in good deals, right? Because they have a whole different outlook on it. There are good deals, and the majority of our good deals, if you will, have all come from brokers.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it's a 3-step process for us. It's identifying brokers who specialize in that which we intend to buy, and then in the locations we intend to buy it. And then for us, it's how do you proactively reach out? What do you say? How do you say it? How do you connect with people? And then ongoing, how do you stay in front of these people? How do you stay relevant? And if by relevant, it's simply, we've got to ask, I ask the question internally to go, if they've got a good deal, who are they calling first?
Yep.
And if
it'd be top of mind, right?
Who's at top of mind? And if that's not me, then I'm not doing a good enough job staying in front of these people. And a lot of that has to do with casting a broad net, because you would think, I'll just call the number one guy. The number one guy gets all the deal flow, everything else. Well, they may get a lot of deal flow. They don't get all the deal flow. And, if they've been around forever, right? 10, 20, 30 years, most of those relationships have solidified. It's going to be tough to become number one in there. So that's why we're building relationships with multiple folks, because you don't know where they're listing, where their relationships extend to. So we've gotten deals from top people. We've gotten deals from people who are literally 1-2 years in the business.
Yep. Yeah. And on the commercial side, it's not as efficient. I mean, again, I've only bought a couple of hundreds of properties. I've only bought a couple off the MLS as well from single family, but on the commercial side, it's common for us to buy large multifamilies through brokers. The same thing you're talking about here. Sometimes they're listed. The problem with listing is there's not something as efficient as the MLS on the commercial side, right? People are listing them all over in different websites or maybe on their own website. And so there's not a one-stop shop on the commercial side like maybe there is on the single family side. And sometimes they're kind of off market, right? Like a broker knows it's coming, or, we even have multifamily that we've bought through a broker and they keep following up because they want to be there to help sell it. So they're like, hey, I think I have somebody that I can sell this to you for twice what I sold to you for. Right. And so it's an interesting thing, right?
Well, let me clarify off market. When we buy deals, they are listed, but they're off market listings with a broker, meaning the broker does not they don't need to put it on LoopNet or Corexy or their own company website. They literally have a listing. Well, it's almost like a private listing, right? They have a listing and they're selling it to their own clientele.
Right. Right.
So they're protected from that standpoint. So you got a seller who actually wants to sell, but that broker is going to get it done, because that's one of the dramatic differences in the realtor world or the real estate agent world, is on the commercial side, 50+% of an agent's transactions are double-sided. They're working with both parties. And now liken that to a single family agent, today from some of the off-market stuff, maybe up a little higher today because of how tight inventory is, but traditionally under 5%. I mean, not even close.
Yeah. So Neil, if folks wanted to kind of transition, if they're like, yeah, this sounds great, why am I still doing single family here? And I know, one of the things that I want to point out here is, for you and me both, we do other things now, but single family really was the foundation of how we got our start and how we got there. Right. So
absolutely.
I look back now and it's been great to me. I don't do it as much as I used to anymore, other than managing my rental portfolio. We just had a rental burn down, so I'm rehabbing that. We got all those same things still going on. Right. But we use it as a stepping stone to something else. So if folks hear this and they want to use it as a stepping stone into commercial, what are some of the lessons you've learned that you can share with people, how to climb that learning curve a little bit faster than maybe they would otherwise?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's actually easier than what one thinks it is. I think if from the outside looking in, and I recall back to thinking, when you and I first connected years back, going, oh man, I don't know what in the world's a wholesale in a house. I mean, I know how to fix and flip, but I don't know how to wholesale and what that is. And so I think we're always afraid of the unknown. And, the dark, if you will, is scarier than things in the light. And it's just not that hard.
Yeah.
If you treat this like the profession that it is, and just knowing that it is like you said, it's closer to a B2B profession, that you're dealing with professionals and they actively want to get things done. So you're dealing with an environment where everybody's engaged and they want to get compensated. So understanding how to plug in there, but really to your question back, that the beginning is you start with the end in mind. What do you want to buy? Like, where do you want to go? And then make that decision and start going down that path. If you want to buy whatever it is, apartments or offices or industrial, which is hot right now, just make that decision, understand your market inside and out, understand, what the buildings are, what things are trading for, and connect with those who are active deal makers in that sector.
Yeah. And I'm guessing one thing that you would maybe say is, I was just thinking of some things that were in my mind, is because I've had a number of friends transition into multifamily that are in our investor fuel group and things like that. And I know some of the challenges, you're doing less deals generally, but they're bigger deals, right? So the deals are spread out more, if they will. If you're used to doing 5 houses a month or even 2 houses a month, and now you might do one big commercial deal a year, some of that is from a cash flow standpoint, having some runway to be able to withstand that wait time between doing a deal. So you might not get paid for a while, and then you do a deal and you have an opportunity, depending on how it's structured, right? But I know in the multifamily space, we have like an acquisition fee. So whoever the chief sponsor is, or sometimes the GPs, actually get paid for acquiring a property, much like an agent would, I guess.
That's exactly
so you
right.
get some paydays, and most of the paydays are down the road when you harvest that ultimately. But
correct.
I think some runway, right?
Yes, but I think you can also make a transition over a period of time. I don't think it needs to be in either or. I think it's something that if you can strategically carve off some time to focus and add this into what you're doing in your single family space today, which is exactly how I did it. And I'm like you, I still have single family exposure. We still fix and flip, still wholesale, still novate, still do it all. But we've been able to button that business in and keep it in a keep it running without me having to spend all my time there. That's key. And that is the hard part, you're a master at building out a team to help pull yourself out of it. I mean, you're definitely one of the best people I know in that space. And I told somebody else that I know that was like, man, we've been having a tough month because I lost an acquisitions guy and this happens. And I just kind of wrote back, finding the right team is the hardest part of this business. Like getting the right people in place is the hardest part of this business. I know you've done well with that. So some advice to people would be like, get your house in order, right? Correct.
To allow you to be able to pull back a little bit and focus on doing other things.
That is, it is the foundation, is it not? Because there's no way I'd be able to be here or as fast as I've been able to to come up a curve without the right people in the right spots who are absolutely committed to a shared vision for where we're headed.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Neil, if folks, I know you have a podcast, you have a book out. I think you're doing some hand modeling. What else do you have going on? But maybe share some tips with us on how folks can connect with you and learn more about what you've got going on.
Yeah, you can do it a couple of ways. Well, one, I wrote the 3 steps to uncovering off-market deals. If you want that free download, so you can understand how to get in, how to build a relationship with brokers, where to go. You can get that on my website, which is legacyimpactpartners.com/gift. That's 3 steps to uncovering off-market commercial deals. Otherwise, you're right. I've got a podcast, Real Grit, and you can find me on LinkedIn or on Facebook, just my name.
Awesome. Well, that was a lot of stuff there, guys. So we're going to put it down in the show notes for all of you to get Neil's book, learn about his podcast, Real Grit, and to connect with him on social media. We'll put all those links down in the show notes here. So make sure you check them out. Go to flipnerd.com. You go into our shows area. Neil, awesome, man. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about today in terms of the transition that you think people need to hear? You're like, I gave them 95%, but this last piece is really the most important part. Anything we missed there? Maybe we got it all.
That's a good question. Just keep yourself open. There's going to be bumps. There's going to be things along the way. There's a whole bunch of resources, and just surround yourself with education. I've been a big proponent of education, and Mike, you run the most successful mastermind group in the country with top-notch people. And I think if you find yourself in a spot where you want to go, just find somebody who's either been there, or surround yourself in a room with people who are doing that and seeking a similar outcome as you are, and get yourself educated. Because when you can do it together with folks and not competing, but do it together with folks, you can get there a whole lot faster. And and that shared success is just wonderful.
No doubt. And we didn't talk about it much, but one of the things I love about we're doing multifamily, you're doing different types of commercial, but is that these bigger commercial deals are like perfect opportunities to partner with people.
Yes.
And it could be somebody's raising money, could be somebody is the sponsor of the deal, could be that somebody's going to do the property management. Like, the deals are just bigger, and they're more equipped to allow you to partner with people, maybe more so than on the single family side.
Well, that's a good way to sum that up. I would call commercial a team sport.
Yeah, there you go. You go. Awesome. Well, Neil, thanks for sharing everything with us today. It's good stuff.
Good to see you, my friend. I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, of course. Everybody, thanks for joining us today. Hopefully you got some value. Hey, I'll tell you what, the Flipnerd podcast is about to evolve into a network of several different Flipnerd kind of powered shows with different hosts and everything. You're going to see that all start to unwind here over the next couple months. So make sure you've joined us. If you go to flipnerd.com, you can click join at the top and get on our list, so we make sure we notify you of all the new shows coming up. But we've got some really cool things going on, and more guests like Neil, awesome people out there that are willing to kind of open up the kimono and share exactly what they're doing. So go to flipnerd.com, make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you on the next show. Thanks for listening to today's show. There are 3 ways I can help you start or grow your real estate investing business. If you're a new investor and just getting started, the Flipnerd Investor Coaching Program is the most effective program in America. I've been coaching and mentoring new real estate investors for 10 years, and my students have literally purchased thousands and thousands of properties. Many of them started with little to no experience at all. Our program is a paint-by-numbers program where we tell you exactly what to do week by week to make sure that you don't get distracted on your way to results. We show you how to build a real business, not just create another job for yourself. New memberships are limited. You can learn more and apply or schedule a call with me and my team at flipnerd.com/coaching. If you're an experienced investor doing a minimum of 10 deals a year, up to 500 deals a year or more, or have a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio already, you should check out our powerful Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. Over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors are members, and it's not uncommon for our members to 2 to 5x their business just from getting around other members at Investor Fuel. At Investor Fuel, each of us are business advisors to one another's businesses, but we don't stop at business. We focus heavily on becoming better people and living fuller lives. If you're looking
For fuel for your business or fuel for your life, please check out investorfuel.com. Applications and interviews are required, as most investors are not a fit for our community. Please learn more at investorfuel.com. If you're not ready for coaching or masterminds but eager to start learning more about investing, please join our private Facebook group by visiting flipnerd.com/Facebook. New members get access to free training from us right here at flipnerd.com, and it's a community to safely ask your questions. A great place to get started. Simply go to flipnerd.com/Facebook to request your access today.